Sometimes the losses that shape midlife the most are not only the obvious ones like death. Sometimes it's the friendship that faded, the role that no longer fits, the pet whose absence still echoes through the house, the marriage that changed, the dream that quietly died, or the version of yourself you can no longer be. And your body often knows that loss long before your mind has words for it. Welcome to Rooted Insights, a podcast for women in their second season of life who've spent years caring for everyone else. Kids, partners, work, households, holding it all together while quietly putting your own needs on the back burner. If you now find yourself wondering, what's next for me? What do I really want from my life now? And how do I start prioritizing myself without dropping everything else? You're in the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelley, a health and well-being specialist and mind-body expert. And here we blend grounded, science-informed practices into everyday life so we can better support our hardworking nervous systems, emotional health, and authentic selves, especially in this powerful mid-season of life. In recent episodes, we've talked about emotions, emotional intelligence, and what happens in your body when feelings are pushed down or repressed. Today, we're going to gently step into one of the most human and often most misunderstood emotional landscapes of midlife: loss. Loss of a loved one or a pet, a friendship or marriage, a job, a role, a home, a dream, or even an old version of yourself that you're quietly outgrowing. We'll explore what loss does in your nervous system and your body, and why grief can feel so intense or unpredictable in this season, and how to view loss through a different energetic lens, one that honors your love and humanity and helps you move through it with a little more ease and grace. So take a slow inhale and a slightly longer exhale. Notice how your body responds when you hear the word loss. Is it tight, numb, heavy, nodding yes, feeling dread, or something else? Whatever shows up is welcome. This can be a challenging topic on many levels, so we'll go gently. I want to start with a story pattern I've seen many times in mid-season women, and see if any part of this feels familiar. On paper, life may look okay. You're still functioning, you're handling the day-to-day, maybe you're working, caring for family, keeping up with responsibilities, and doing what needs to be done. But underneath that, there may have been a quiet accumulation of losses over the last few years. A parent or loved one died, whether suddenly or after a long illness. A beloved pet who carried you through difficult seasons is no longer here. A close friendship changed or disappeared after conflict, distance, or simply life shifting. A marriage or long-term relationship ended or became something very different than it once was. Your work, role, or identity no longer feels like it belongs to the woman you are now, sort of like an old, faded costume you keep putting on. And for each loss, maybe you did what many women do. You just kept going. You handled the logistics, you comforted everyone else, you checked the boxes, and you told yourself, it's fine, this is just what life is now. When people asked how you were, maybe your answer was, I'm fine, it's been a lot, but I'm okay. Except maybe you weren't. Months later, grief starts showing up sideways. You tear up in the grocery store. You feel unexpectedly angry during an ordinary conversation. You realize your shoulders are constantly tight or heavy. Your sleep is off. Your fuse is shorter. Your body feels heavier, more tired, more sensitive. And underneath it all, a quiet, critical voice says, why am I still like this? Other people have it worse. I should be over this by now. But here's the thing. Your body is not broken. It's just being honest. Today, we're going to talk about what may be happening in a body like that, and maybe in your own. When midlife brings loss after loss, and your mind is trying to cope while your nervous system and your deeper self are asking you to move through it differently. So let's ground this in some gentle science. Grief is not just an emotion. It's a whole body process. Research shows that, like other major stressors, bereavement can change activity in your stress system, your immune function, and even your heart and blood vessels. A few key pieces around this to understand in simple language is first talking about your stress system. When you lose someone or something that mattered deeply, your body can stay in a heightened state of alert. Higher stress hormones like cortisol, changes in heart rate, tension in your muscles, sleep disruption, and that feeling of being both tired and wired. Then there's the immune and inflammatory systems. Grief has been linked with changes in immune activity and inflammation, which can show up as more frequent illness, flare-ups of existing conditions, fatigue, or that sense of my whole body hurts. And next, the heart and cardiovascular system. Intense or prolonged grief can increase the risk of issues like high blood pressure and heart problems, especially when there's no support or safe outlet for what you're feeling. From a nervous system perspective, loss can push you through all three states we've talked about before. Hyperarousal, that's that anxiety, racing thoughts. Restlessness, that feeling like your skin is buzzing. And then there's hypoarousal or shutdown, that's that numbness, detachment, I feel nothing, and difficulty caring about things. And then there's moments of regulation, those brief pockets of calm or connection where you feel more like yourself, even in the middle of grief. None of these states are wrong or permanent. They're your body's ways of trying to make sense of a world that has changed, and of a bond or identity that is no longer here in the way it once was. What often makes midlife grief particularly intense is that it's rarely just one loss. It's cumulative. You might be grieving a parent and a pet, and the end of a marriage, kids leaving home and a change in your job, and a body that doesn't feel like it used to, or a dream you quietly realize may not happen in the way you imagined. Each loss touches your attachment system, your brain's wiring around love, safety, and belonging. So if you feel too emotional or like your reactions surprise you, it's not because you're weak. It's because your nervous system is recalibrating around a new reality, and that takes time. Now let's talk about a different way of seeing loss, an energetic, meaning-based lens that can sit right alongside the science. When something or someone leaves your life, the energy of that bond does not just vanish overnight. The body and the nervous system still carry things like the pattern of reaching for that person, the pet, or the role, the pathways of care and attention you built around them, and the identity you formed as their person, or the one who does this or that. Grief, in that sense, is your energy reorganizing itself. It's the process of your system learning, this is no longer here in the same way, and I'm having to reshape who I am and how I love around that truth. There's also a gentle metaphor from physics that some women find meaningful here. The law of conservation of energy tells us that in a closed system, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes form. It may move from one expression to another, like potential to motion, chemical to heat, but it does not simply disappear. While grief is not a physics experiment, this principle can offer a comforting way to think about love and attachment. The care, devotion, attention, and life force you poured into a person, a pet, a role, or a dream do not just vanish because the form of the relationship has changed. Instead, that energy may begin to take a different shape. It might become tenderness towards yourself, deeper compassion for others, a new ritual of remembering, a cause you care about, a boundary you finally keep, or a quieter but steadier way of loving. In that sense, grief can be understood as the felt process of love changing form, not ending, but reorganizing. From this lens, tears are not a sign you are failing at being strong. They're a sign that love and attachment still matter in your system. That heaviness in your chest is not weakness. It's your heart and lungs adjusting to a different daily rhythm of love, responsibility, and attention. And the foggy or disoriented feelings is not you losing your mind. It's your brain updating its maps of who I am with or without this person or role to who I am now. Loss in midlife is rarely just about what ended. It's also about what those relationships or roles represented. Security, belonging, purpose, meaning, a certain version of you. So rather than asking, why am I not over this, you might gently ask, what part of me or my energy is being reshaped by this loss, and is there anything more for me to know about it right now? This does not bypass the pain. It simply recognizes that underneath the ache is love, meaning, and a new pattern trying to emerge. So let's make this a little more practical. These are gentle invitations, not requirements. If you like, choose one that feels doable and comforting for you to try. Practice number 1, a 3-minute loss check-in. This is a simple way of letting your body and nervous system know that what you're carrying matters. You can do it in a journal, on your phone, or in your mind. Create a quiet space for yourself where you won't be interrupted. Begin by naming the loss. I'm grieving the loss of my mother, my dog, my marriage, my old job, my sense of who I was at 35. Then name what it gave you. That relationship gave me laughter, stability, unconditional love, a place to belong, a sense of purpose, daily routines that anchored me. And then finally, name one way it still lives in you. I still carry it in how I show up for my kids, the way I care for others, my love for all animals, the values I live by, how I find meaning, and what matters most in my days now. Then take one slow breath and say quietly to yourself, of course this hurts. Of course this mattered. You're not fixing anything. You're just acknowledging that your grief is the echo of something meaningful. Practice number 2, a tiny ritual of honoring. Our nervous systems respond powerfully to simple rituals. They give shape and container to big emotions. For this practice, choose one brief ritual for this week. Light a candle at a certain time of day and think of the person, pet, or role you're grieving. Then take a short walk with one memory in mind, or a token or symbol of that loss, and let yourself feel whatever arises. And finally, write a letter you don't have to send, beginning with what I wish I could tell you is, or what I miss most is. When you're done, close the ritual intentionally. Blow out the candle, place the letter somewhere safe, or put your hand on your heart and take a steadying breath. You're teaching your nervous system we can touch the grief and we can still come back to the now. Practice number 3, the 5% gentler question. Grief often makes everyday life feel heavier. Instead of trying to overhaul everything, ask this simple question. What's one way I can make my day 5% gentler on my grieving body and nervous system? Some ideas are to simplify one meal, maybe just have soup and toast one night. Say no to one extra request. Ask for help with a small task. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier. And let yourself cry in the shower instead of holding it in. When grief is present, your body is already working hard. That 5% shift is you partnering with your system instead of pushing it even harder. So as we bring this important episode to a close, you might carry one or two of these questions into a walk, a shower, or a quiet moment before bed. What loss is my body still holding, even if my mind says that was a long time ago? If grief is proof of love, what does it say about what matters most to me? And what's one tiny, safe way I'm willing to let myself honor that love through words, ritual, rest, or asking for support this week? Remember, you do not have to go back and re-feel every loss all at once. Every small, honest moment with yourself, a single tear you allow, a boundary you set because you're more tired than usual, a memory you let yourself enjoy without judging how long it's been, is you relieving your body of a little bit of what it's been carrying for you all alone. If you notice that your grief feels unrelenting, that months or years later you still feel stuck, unable to function, or you're experiencing deep depression or thoughts of self-harm, that's not a failure on your part. It's a sign that your system is asking you for more support, the kind a licensed therapist, grief counselor, or other professional can offer. Getting help is not a sign you're weak. It's a sign you understand how powerful love and loss really are. If this conversation helped you feel a little more understood in the places you're grieving, whether that's the loss of a person, a pet, a role, or a version of yourself, I'd love for you to keep walking with me here on Rooted Insights. Follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast, and if it feels supportive, please share this episode with another mid-season woman who may be silently struggling with grief and could be supported with this grounded, science-informed, and heart-centered conversation. I'd love to hear from you if and when it feels right. What's one loss you're acknowledging more honestly in this season? And what's one tiny, compassionate experiment you're willing to try this week? A check-in, a small ritual, or a 5% gentler choice for your grieving body and your nervous system? Share in the comments below, because your experiment might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to realize she's not alone and she's not too much. Her body is simply telling the truth about how deeply she has loved. Remember, you are not behind. You are in a new season of your life, and your nervous system, your heart, and all the parts of you that have loved and lost have carried you this far. You're allowed to support them now with science, heart and soul, and with the kind of tenderness you've given to so many others. We're here rooting in together, one loss, one breath, one small act of honoring at a time. Until next time on Rooted Insights.